Hey guys, welcome to this session by Intellipaat. Business intelligence has played a very important role in driving today's businesses to success, right? There are many tools one can use, and Power BI from Microsoft is one of the most popular ones. And in this top Power BI interview questions set, we'll be checking out and taking a look at these questions that have the highest probability of occurrence in a Power BI interview. So use this guide to understand how you can approach these questions and how you can answer them effectively, because we'll be discussing a lot about the components of Power BI, tables, visualizations, and a lot more. So make sure to stick around, make sure to check out this video, and be sure that it'll help you out to ace your interviews. Well guys, before we begin with the session though, make sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon so that you'll never miss any updates from us. Also, guys, if you're looking to become experts in business intelligence, make sure to check out Intellipaat's latest offerings on the same by heading to our website now. Well, without further ado, let's begin the class.
Now, coming on to the first question on this list of top Power BI interview questions, let's begin by checking out this. What exactly is self-service BI? Well, self-service BI or self-service business intelligence, right? It is called as SSBI. So you can be asked a question saying what is SSBI as well, and the answer is the same. So it's an approach that we take to perform data analytics, to report the result of these analytics, and to of course complement it with good data visualization that at the end of the day will make sure that a user, a client, or anyone has the ability to actually perform all of these above mentioned tasks and understand it, drive business insights out of it, create dashboards without having to put much effort. One of the most important things that you're supposed to mention whenever you're asked about the SSBI is that the person who's working with this, right, the person who's trying to provide the BI solution, he or she really does not need any sort of technical proficiency or let's say a large amount of expertise when it comes to working with reporting, because at the end of the day you'll be making use of a lot of filters that are already available, data manipulation options that are actually put into place to help the user, and you can work with it, you can customize it, and you can have a solution to your business intelligence problem without having to put much effort. That at the end of the day is what makes SSBI special. Now, with this, we can move to question number 2 that states, what is the difference between managed enterprise BI and self-service BI? Whenever we talk about the managed enterprise BI, right, the data flow there is a little unordered. So there is no structured way that the data flows. But in the case of self-service BI, the data is via an ordered flow. And with this unordered data and ordered data flow of the difference that we have in between managed enterprise and self-service BI, it affects a lot in the second point as well. That is efficiency. So when we're talking about efficiency, right, since we're ingesting unordered data, since you're bringing unordered data into the pipeline, it means that it's going to take a lot of time, it's going to take a lot of effort, and it's going to take a lot of pre-processing as well in the case of managed enterprise. But in the case of self-service BI, since the data itself is coming in a structured way, in an ordered way, the process can go on in such a way that the process methodologies and the models can actually start working on the data rather than having to spending a lot of time worrying on how the data is coming, what order is it coming in, and working with it as well. So coming on to programming skills, when you talk about managed enterprise, right, here is where you will require training, proficiency, and working knowledge of how the BI tool works. Because at the end of the day, here you'll be making use of complex programming skills, and this comes by practice. You can be taught a lot of things, but at the end of the day, practical experience and hands-on experience in the production environment matters a lot for managed enterprise BIs. But when you contrast it to the self-service BI, here is where the code is really simple. At the end of the day, you will not require much of code at all. A beginner, a person who is uninitiated in the field of BI can actually get started and work on providing a decent enough solution, business intelligence solution, of course, without having to put much effort into it. So it's small code that has a large effect on the program or the outcome or the goal in discussion as well. So this is the simple differences that lie in between a managed enterprise business intelligence tool and a self-service business intelligence tool. So question number 3, it states, why are you interested in Power BI? What makes you think that Power BI would be a great career option? there is a very good chance your interview can start with this question itself. So to go on to approach this question, understand it first. The first part of it says, why are you interested in Power BI? Here you can approach it in two ways. One, you can tell your inclinations of why you like Power BI or how you've solved a problem before and how you're planning to solve a problem using that as well. But there's another approach that you can take is tell why Power BI is something that you have to prefer. Because if the interviewer is expecting an answer saying why Power BI, why not other BI tools, then you can go on to talk about the advantages of BI. For example, talk about the advantages of Power BI. For example, Power BI makes use of a cloud-based data reporting tool. It's an amazingly easy to use visualization tool backed by Microsoft. It provides everything that's needed to perform data handling and data reporting as well. And it's just not that. After the report generation has been done, dashboards have been created. You can share it across the globe easily, be it in your workspace, be it to someone else, be it online, whatever it is. So this one particular aspect of easily being able to finish your task and share it, of course, is what makes Power BI very, very efficient and very popular among all the business users out there. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, less work, better efficiency is something that all the businesses would definitely like to enforce, and this does just that. So with this, it's a win-win-win, right? So that's one of the reasons of why you should be thinking towards answering it this way. Second part of the question says, what makes you think that Power BI would be a great career option? Well, business intelligence is in demand everywhere right now, right? There are hundreds of thousands of businesses across the globe where everyone wants an analyst, everyone wants a solution to the problem that they have. A BI analyst will fit in 99.9% of the business companies out there. Now, in that case, considering that it is a trending career, it is among the top 10 roles to have in the next decade. And of course, this decade as well, it makes it a no-brainer that you guys would love to jump on the trend, make full use out of it, and provide effective solutions to the problems we have in the world of business today. So, moving on to the fourth question, it states mention the important features of Power BI. Well, as you might already know it now that you're on the video here, Power BI has many features, right? So you can probably talk 20 minutes just about the features of Power BI, but then do read the room. Understand what the interviewer is expecting. Is he or she expecting a concise and a small answer, or is he or she expecting you to elaborate on it? Whatever the case, at least make sure you mention four of the important features. See, for example, Power BI is used to transform data into beautiful looking visualization and aesthetic presentation and helps you share it very easily. First point. The second point is that you can have the ability to bring in data from multiple sources, in fact, perform a quick analysis even before you work on it, have an all-in-one view of it as well. Coming on to point number 3. Point number 3 talks about how you can scale your data, how you can scale your solutions right from the startups all the way till the established organizations out there, be it governance, be it security, be it military, whatever it is. The span of Power BI is as good as the implementation itself. So at the end of the day, when you're thinking about it, you can span it anywhere you want. And then fourth point, once an output is basically generated, what happens in the case of Power BI is that users have the capability to actually scale these and show it in multiple devices at the same time if it supports the Power BI application as well. If you want to show the output on your phone, yes, possible. Laptop, yes. Have it on the cloud, yes. Put it on a website, yes. So there's many things that you can do with Power BI if there is support to do it as well. And the support for Power BI from Microsoft is of course really good. So these are some of the very important points, right? But then when you have to try to showcase that you know a little bit more about Power BI, you can talk about the NLP capabilities of Power BI. You can talk about Power BI Q&A, which of course we'll discuss in the next couple of questions on how, of course, user can make use of queries on reporting by not really having to use complex programming languages or let's say complex querying techniques to work with the database as well. So there's many things. But as I mentioned, make sure to talk about the top 4 or 5 features of Power BI. Now with this, moving on to the fifth question, it states, is Power BI free to use? The answer is yes. Users can actually make use of Power BI for free in case if you have had practical experience using it. Well, but the best of the best features of Power BI can be availed with the Pro subscription that costs a little bit of money. Of course, this can be purchased from the Microsoft Store or through the application itself. It's a subscription-based application where you can actually go on to use enhanced features of already existing feature set that's provided with the free account. So if the basic features and functionalities work good enough for you to solve your problem, then perfect. If not, if there is a requirement for let's say more ease of use, or let's say there is a requirement for more powerful filters or whatever it is, then considering a pro account or a pro subscription definitely adds a lot of value. Because what most business users do is they have a subscribed account where it provides a lot more features. See, for example, instant data refreshes by the day, and many other powerful solutions which are missed in the free version. It is totally understandable, but do know that Power BI Pro subscription makes Power BI pack a huge punch. It's a very powerful tool, even in its free form, but once you go paid, once you go all in, it's a beautiful app to work with as well. So make sure to answer it this way. Coming on to question number 6, it states, what are the versions of Power BI? See, Power BI versions, you really don't have to talk about the version number and all of that when you ask this question, but talk about how Power BI is basically divided, right? See, it's a tool that brings a lot of flexibility when you talk about data reporting, handling, and working with it and whatnot. So, to complement all of these, to leverage the power of Power BI and make the full use out of it, it is divided into multiple versions. We have the Power BI Desktop, which is basically used as an on-premise software for Windows 10 or any other Windows for that matter. And then we have the Power BI services, which are used for publishing and pushing the reports to the cloud directly. And then we have the mobile Power BI, where we try to cater solutions via the mobile operating systems as well, be it iOS, be it Android, and more. So these are the 3 important versions that you should mention when you ask this question. It's Power BI Desktop, Power BI Service, and of course Power BI Mobile or Mobile Power BI. Now, with this, we can move on to the 7th question that states, what is Power BI Desktop? This can be a follow-up to the last question as well. So, Power BI Desktop is actually a Windows-based application that is used for personal computers. It is used for laptops. It is used for microcomputers. That is basically used, to design dashboards, to generate reports, and to publish them to the cloud at the end of the day. And finding the most native way to do it in the Windows operating system is what Power BI helps us to do. So by making use of Power BI on PCs, right, a full-fledged environment is actually not even required to work with. If you have a basic machine that has the capability to run Power BI, then it's more than sufficient that you start working with it. For example, for some features, right, you will not even require being connected to the internet as well. So if you have to work offline, then of course you can do it. But then if you have to publish it to the cloud or share it with colleagues, then of course there is the requirement for internet, but I'm sure you already know that. Now, when you're thinking about how easy it is to get started with Power BI Desktop, well, you can jump right in, check out some samples out there as well, and begin working to learn, or let's say explore around Power BI without having any prior experience using the tool as well. So that's one of the big advantages of making use of Power BI Desktop. You can get right in, get your hands messy, and see what you can come up with as well. Now, moving on to the 8th question, it states, what are the major components of Power BI? Power BI has 5 very important components that you have to talk about. One is the Power Pivot, where we talk about how we can fetch the data, clean the data, and load it onto what we call as Power Query. Power Query is used in between the user interaction between the data that is present and how we interact with it based on a lot of features, programming sets, and for example, operations such as loading the data, pulling the data, cleaning the data, and a lot more. And of course, Power QA is basically to interact with the reports that we generate from the data, and this is done by using simple language as well. And then we have the Power View. The Power View is basically used to create a lot of charts, graphs, maps, and many other types of visuals that we can use to aesthetically present the data in the form of a good dashboard or great report as well. And lastly, we have Power Map. Power Map will make sure that we can have the processing power of global icons on the screen, where we're trying to depict or show the processing of accurate geographical locations that are present in the data sets. For example, sales figures in a particular country, support operations in another part of the world. A lot more that you can do with Power Map. So when you ask this question, make sure to mention the 5 different components of Power BI. That's Power Map, Power Q&A, Power Query, Power View, and of course Power Pivot. So with this, we can check out the 9th question that states, what is the purpose of the get data icon in Power BI? This is a very commonly asked question, but then it has a very simple solution. The get data icon, as the name suggests, is actually used to ingest all the data into your Power BI dashboard or your working environment. You can have Excel files, you can have XML files, be it JSON, PDF, SharePoint, CSV files, a lot of other files that you can directly ingest into your program, or in fact into your working environment with just 1 or 2 clicks. That is how simple it is, and we use that icon for this purposes, right? So in case if you have databases such as SQL Server Analytics Services, you have Oracle, IBM, MySQL, Access, Microsoft Access, of course, and lot more that you can start pulling in and check out what data sets are supported by Power BI, how you can pull it in, and how you can make full use out of it with 1 or 2 clicks as well. That's the specialty of this particular button. Now, if you're wondering about pulling data from the cloud directly, the answer is yes. You can directly hook up your Power BI into Microsoft Azure network and multiple other cloud platforms as well. And through this button, through this icon, you will find all the options and all the things that are required to pull all the data and bring it into your working environment easily. That's the advantage of Power BI. Now, moving on to the 10th question, it states, how can we filter the data we ingested in Power BI? Well, data filtering is something that Power BI is definitely known for. It's popular for. What happens here is that data can be filtered by making use of a lot of filters that are already present, in fact, implicitly. So you really don't have to explicitly start working on it. If you program your Power BI to do it automatically for you, it has the capability to do it. But then when we talk about the filters, right, there are 3 important types of filters in Power BI that we have. One we call as the drill through filters. Second, we have the page level filters. And third, we have the report level filters. When we talk about the drill through filters, what we're trying to do here is that, especially in Power BI desktop, users can go on to create a page where their report is present, but then there are many things on a report that can get confusing, right? But with the drill through filter, as the name suggests, we are trying to drill through to the specific requirements that we have. Let's say you're talking about a manufacturing pipeline. Here you can go on to concentrate with suppliers, concentrate about customers, manufacturers, the graphs that are involved behind it, how these values are changing with respect to time, and a lot more. So to hone in on that particular requirement that we have to focus on, that is where drill through filters come into the picture. And then we have the page level filters. Page level filters where we try to filter out via each individual page, as the name suggests, pretty simple. And then we have the report level filters. Again, here we try to simultaneously filter all of the charts that are present in all of the pages of a single report. So one report can have multiple pages. If a page has to be filtered, we can use page level filters. If the reports have to be filtered, we have report level filters. But at the end of the day, if you have to get into a particular report, a particular page of that report, then perform some focus analysis on it, then you have the drill through filters. So make sure to answer this in a clear and a concise way. Now, coming on to question number 11. Question number 11 states, where is data stored in Power BI? Well, when data gets ingested into the Power BI environment, it gets stored into 2 types of tables. One is we have the fact table, and the other we have the dimension tables. So what happens in the case of fact tables is that we have a central table in the schema, what we call as the star schema. You might know it if you've worked on data warehousing. So a fact table will consider and store all of the quantitative information that is required for us to perform analytics. But one very important thing that you have to mention about fact tables is that the data is not normalized in the case of fact tables. So make sure to mention that. Now, when we talk about the dimension tables, right? Dimension tables, on the other hand, also make use of a star schema. But here what we're trying to do is we're trying to store the metadata of the data as well. So think about storing attributes, think about storing dimensions, think about storing things that actually describe the data or describe the objects that are present in our previous fact table where the data is actually stored. Fact table is where we have the data. Dimension table is where we express and talk more about the data. Think of it that way. So when you ask this question about where the data is stored, make sure you talk about fact tables and make sure you talk about dimensional tables, and of course state how each of these work as well. So moving on to the 12th question, it says, what are content packs? Well, content packs are, again, one of the most important things in the world of Power BI, because this is where we can package reports, dashboards, data set, share it with other people very easily. Because one thing about a content pack is that whenever you head to a website, right, your portal, the Power BI portal, here you can, merge your workspace list. Here you can check out all your reports, check out all your dashboards without having to put much effort into it. But then when you have to stress a little bit about content packs, right, so what it mainly does is it provides limited access or complete access to certain charts, certain lists, certain pages, and certain reports based on your organization structure. So if you want to deny access or authorize access to some people, you can do that. The second thing is that you can customize it with a title, give it a little description, and make sure that the user or the person who's seeing the reports or the dashboard has the ability to pick what's required and leave what's not required. So with content packs, that can be done. And of course, we have the next point, which talks about how users can have access and create new dashboard from the content pack itself, rather than having to open up the tool again and working with it hands on. So these three features form to be one of the most notable features of content packs. And at the end of the day, whenever you talk about content packs, know one thing: this is a topic where you can definitely stress on and talk about for 5 to 10 minutes straight, but then there is a very good chance that the interviewer is expecting a clear and a concise answer, so make sure you keep it that way. Now with this, we can check out the 13th question that states, what are the different views in Power BI desktop? Well, there are three different views in Power BI that you're supposed to know about, and each of these view has its own unique purpose. For example, we have the report view. In the report view, what we're trying to do is we're trying to add visualizations, add multiple report pages, add multiple reports, and see how we can publish it right then and there from the Power BI desktop. So this is the report view, where we can actually have a full scale view of what's going on. Then we have the data view. Data view is where we perform operations such as data pre-processing, data shaping, and all of these by making use of the query editor tools. So this is data view. And then we have the third different view in Power BI. This is basically the relationship view. The relationship view is used to actually show and manage the relationships that are present in the data sets that we are working with currently as well. So each of these view, as you can see, a relationship view gives the ability for us to manage relationships. Data view gives us a header through which we can work with the query editor tools, and we have the report view where we can add visualizations and work with the report directly as well. So as you can see, these are three different views that do three different things as well. So it is very important that you answer it this way. Now with this, we can check out the 14th question that states, what is row level security? This is a very important question, so make sure to concentrate. So a low level security, basically what it does, it means that it is trying to restrict the data that a user can actually access, the user can view and work with it by making use of certain set of filters that come built in Power BI. So to configure this and to begin working with row level security, all you have to do is you have to configure and put into place certain rows, and of course certain roles, and of course certain rules as well, because in Power BI this is very easy to do, and these rules and roles that you provide is applicable as soon as you push it to the Power BI service as well. Let's say if you have to put it to the cloud, put it to a website, Power BI mobile, whatever it is. So there is a function here, what we call as the username function. This is used along with the table relationships to see which user has access to what kind of data in the data set as well. So if you're the current user working on it, this function can actually show what restrictions are applicable to the current data. Now, when you're thinking about enabling row level security, right, one important thing that you have to know about is, to do this, you require the Power BI Pro subscription. So this cannot be done in the free subscription, but then Excel sheets can of course be used wherever it's being converted to the PBIX file format, which is the Power BI index format as well. So make sure you talk about how the Power BI Pro subscription is needed, how it works, how you can configure, and how you can use the username function to actually showcase the relationship between the data access and the current user who's using it as well. Now, moving on to the 15th question, it says, what is DAX and what are the benefits of making use of variables in DAX? DAX is an acronym for data analysis expressions, and this is one of the most important things in Power BI, because this is what we use to query and return all of the data by making use of table expressions in Power BI. So it's actually a language. Think of it like SQL, where we're actually trying to use formulas, where we're trying to perform basic calculations, where we're trying to perform data analysis on all the data that's present in Power Pivot. But then we're not trying to talk about the data directly, but then we're trying to see how we can work with the data. Hence, this is where it differs from your query language. It's used to compute your columns, calculated fields, your measures. You can do a lot with DAX. At the end of the day, what you cannot do is you cannot insert or modify the data. But then apart from that, since your data is already ingested from multiple sources, working with it, performing analytics on it, and then driving results out of it is very easy, and that's the primary purpose of DAX. So what are some of the benefits of making use of DAX, right? See, when you're using variables in DAX, what happens is that every variable that we use in DAX can be reusable. So here, you will really not have to write multiple queries to get a lot done. Small amount of queries can do a lot to your source database. And at the end of the day, variables are these entities that makes DAX expressions understandable by us. So keeping it high level, keeping it simple, ensuring reusability is set, makes our job very very easy when we work with DAX or data analysis expressions as well. So when you ask this question, make sure to provide the answer in a clean and a crisp way. Now, coming on to the 16th question. The 16th question states, what is bidirectional cross-filtering in Power BI? Well, BCF as we call it in short, or bidirectional cross-filtering, is actually used to allow the data modelers to make sure that they can use filters the way they want to control the relationship between tables. As the name suggests, it's bidirectional, right? So we'll have a secondary table here, on the other side of the actual primary table relationship, where we propagate the data on the filter context from the first one to the second one. This is done to make sure that you really don't have to use any sort of complex DAX formulas or any, complex data modeling entities that will help you solve the relationship. What happens whenever we discuss about many-to-many problems, and to avoid, the ability of actually going to mix up the data or messing up the relationship in the table as well. So with this cross filtering, we are trying to use multiple tables again to make sure we determine the relationship and then work with it. So what this does is it simplifies the job for data modelers whenever they have to work with the many-to-many problem, and simplify on how data can be used, pre-processed, analyzed, and of course at the end of the day documented and published in the required formats as per the client's requirement or as per the goal as well. So this is what bidirectional cross filtering is. Coming on to the 17th question, it says, how are relationships defined in Power BI Desktop? Well, one thing you should know about Power BI Desktop is that there is no null values, there is no duplicate rows, and there are relationships in between tables that can be defined in more than one way. So what are these ways? We have two things. One is we can do it manually. The second thing is we can make use of the auto detect feature for this. If we have to do it manually, if you have to define the relationships manually, then the user can go on to use the key structure, where you can use primary keys, where you can use foreign keys, map the data, and then work with it. But then if you have to make use of the auto detect feature, right? With the auto detect feature, if we have this enabled, Power BI has the capability to actually understand the relationships in between tables and then map the relationships for us automatically. Sometimes it does it right, but then sometimes, it's a minor case where one or two relationships can get a little twitchy and messed up. In that case, of course, you can manually go in and fix it, but do understand that it's very powerful. It knows what it does, and 95% of the time it has the capability to detect it automatically and split out and create the relationships that we want in the case of Power BI as well. So with that, Power BI is something that offers a lot for a lot less effort that we put into it actually. Now, moving on to the 18th question, it says, what is advanced editor in Power BI? Well, advanced editor, as the name suggests, is where we try to see the query that Power BI uses whenever we go on to import the data. The query is actually written in a language what we call as the Power Query formula language, or in short it's called as the M code. So to view our particular query code, right, especially when we're making use of Power BI Desktop, just go to edit queries from the home tab. This is where you can directly access it, and you can work with the advanced editor to see what query is being used. It will display the query for you. What is the current query that's running, what query have you selected, and what transformations you can apply on it as well. So of course, to apply the actual transformations, we're going to have to go into the query editor and select each individual step, type in the query, and then work with it. But then one thing you really have to know is that all of the things that we can do, right, to the particular code that we're talking about, it's easily done in the case of advanced editor, because it provides all the basic functionality and a lot more as well. So in that particular case, you have the basic functioning bare bones of it, and you have a lot more features that you may or may not use as well. So to check out all of these, make sure you're talking about the M code, make sure you're talking about how you can go on to actually use the advanced editor and what the advanced editor does as well. Now, moving on to the 19th question, it states, why should general formatting be applied to data in the case of Power BI? Well, this is a very generic question, even though it might seem a little specific, because at the end of the day, general formatting needs to be applied to a lot of data that we have, right? See, in Power BI, what we're trying to do is we're trying to categorize the data, we're trying to identify data, and we're trying to see what's the easiest way we can work with it. So to do this, you will require relationships. To do this, you'll require custom formulas and a lot more, right? Now to do all of this, let's say you have to create a new column to work with it. You can go on to add a custom column, type in the name of the column, type in the relationship, type in the formulas, and it is just 4 or 5 clicks away. So general formatting is basically done to make sure that your task can be reduced to a minimum at the end of the day. As that's exactly what Power BI aims to do. You having to do a lot less for the code, and the code in fact is going to do a lot more for you. So to have a new column name, have a new box for it, have a formula for it, to map a relationship, to see what it does, is probably 5 or 6 clicks away, and it's as simple as that. So to kind of leverage this, we make use of general formatting. Now, coming on to the 20th question, it states, what are the most common data shaping techniques that are present in Power BI? It's not just Power BI. There are many other business intelligence tools that use this as well. Some of the most common things are, manually removing columns and rows based on the requirement. We can add indexes to keep the data a little more structured. We can apply a sorting order to see how we can work with the data and how we can actually, work with it in a structured way. And of course, there are many other things too. But what are some of the most widely used data shaping techniques? If it is asked, the answer is this: either manual removal of column and rows, or addition of indices, or of course sorting the data based on an order as well. So moving on to the 21st question, it says, which in-memory analytics engine is used in the case of Power Pivot? So one important talk about Power Pivot is, of course, it's in-memory analytics engine, right? And there is no other engine unlike Xvelocity in my opinion, because this engine has the capability to handle large amount of data, store it in columnar databases, and present it to you like it's absolutely nothing. Like it doesn't break a sweat to do it. That is how efficient it is, and that is how intelligent it can get as well. So this is done very quickly in a very rapid manner, because the data actually gets stored onto the RAM, and since it is on the RAM and not on the hard disk, your processing speed, your data read speed, your data write speed has gone exponentially up. And what this does, it makes sure that your processing speed is very high and that you can use it rapidly as well. And this is exactly what makes the Xvelocity engine very powerful as well. So with this, we can come to the 22nd question that states, what is Power BI Designer? Power BI Designer is actually a new tool that's been put into Power BI, where it provides the ability for the users to create a lot of good looking reports, intuitive dashboards, without you having to put much effort again. So you can change the visual aspects of the data, the aesthetics of the data, with probably 4 or 5 clicks as well, because this is done to make sure that you can spend a good amount of time with the actual process of the goal, with the actual process of making a decision based on the analytics that you just drove, rather than having to spend time creating all of these reports. So this easy manipulation of the aesthetic part of it is exactly what Power BI Designer does. One thing about the Power BI Designer that Microsoft is doing right is that they have put in a lot of drag and drop capabilities. What it means is that you can start dragging in and dropping in data. Let's say where you want to create a canvas report, or let's say if you have a layout where you want to start dragging in widgets, dragging in charts, dragging in maps, whatever it is, right? It's only a mouse click or a pull away. That's how simplified things have become in today's world of Power BI with the help of Power BI Designer. So when you ask this question, make sure to answer it in a clear and a concise way. Coming on to question number 23, it states, is it possible to refresh Power BI reports after they get published to the cloud? The answer is a very simple and a straightforward yes, because gateways are put into place for us to do just this. After the reports have been pushed to the cloud, we can edit it and we can refresh it based on the changes in the data that has happened. So how can we do this? There are two ways. So if you've shared it using SharePoint, then we have the DMG gateway, or the data management gateway, that we make use of it. And then if you've shared it on powerbi.com, then we have the Power BI personal gateway that we can make use for this purpose. So depending on how the data gets published to the cloud, either by using SharePoint or either by using the powerbi.com website, we have two gateways that help us refresh the data. Now, after understanding this, there could be a follow-up question which states, what are the gateways that are available in Power BI and why do we use them, right? See, a gateway is, as you just saw in the previous question, a bridge that is used to gap the differences A gateway, as you previously saw, is basically a bridge that is used to gap the on-premise data with the Azure cloud services that are present. So to do this, right, to make use of gateways, there are two types of gateways that are present in Power BI. One, we have the personal gateway and we have the on-premise gateway. A personal gateway is one where we can have the data imported and make sure we use it, but only by making use of Power BI service and on their website. So by making use of personal gateway, check out the name, it says personal. This means that it can only be used, accessed and worked on by one authority or one person. Now, we have the on-premise gateway. On-premise gateway is, let's say, an expanded version or an addition to personal gateway with a lot more features. Here you can work with direct query, you can have multiple users work with this, you can have many users refresh the data to see the progress as well, to see when the refreshes happened at what time. You can basically get analytics about refreshing as well. So that is how powerful gateways are. So when you ask this question, make sure to talk about the personal gateway, make sure to mention the on-premise gateway, about how personal gateway only works for Power BI service, while the on-premise gateway allows multiple users to work with as well. Moving on to the 25th question, it states, how can geographical data be mapped into Power BI reports? Geographical data can be mapped into the Power BI reports in a very simple fashion. It's by making use of map charts and filled map charts, right? So I'm sure if you're at this point of time in your interview preparation, you will already know this, or you would have used this as well. So by making use of map charts and filled map charts, we find the easiest way where we can visualize geographical data, be it your local locality, be it your local regional data, or global data as well. Power BI has one important integration is with Bing Maps, where we can pick up the default coordinates for locations. You can use geocoding, and you can make use of mapping places without having to know its latitude and longitude coordinates directly as well. So with this integration with Bing Maps, it makes it very intuitive for the user and the developer to actually go on to work with the tool, rather than working on understanding, knowing, noting, and using longitudes and latitudes as well. But then, of course, if you have to use it, you can. But there, do you have to compulsorily use it? The answer is no. Now, moving on to the 26th question, it says, what happens when you click on a single data point in one of the multiple visuals in a report? See, it's very simple. What happens when you click on a single data point is that the data gets selected and copied into your clipboard. That's about it. But then it's a very tricky question, and sometimes people fumble upon answering this, but then do not do that. Now you know the answer to this, right? So when you go on to do that, all your data gets selected, the single data point, of course, it gets copied to the clipboard. And of course, whenever you have copied data, you can paste it anywhere that you need it and use it. And this is at the end of the day put into place to make sure that you can work with Power BI effectively, and you really don't have to spend much time with all of these native things as well. So when you click on a data point, it gets copied, use this in the clipboard to paste it wherever you require it and use it. As simple as that. Moving on to the 27th question, it states, what is Z order in Power BI? Z order is actually a design strategy that is put into place where we try to arrange the visuals by making use of certain shapes. So what the Z order does is that, we can define it, we can have an implementation where we're trying to show the report, which consists of multiple elements, where we're trying to refresh the display, of how the order of elements gets changed in case the reports itself are changed. See, you will have data in the reports, and this will be constant and working fine. But then if your data changes in the report, there's a very good chance your report can change too, right? So let's say your order of item changes, your item entity itself changes, or there's a change in the relationship. In this particular case, we make use of this strategical approach where we are trying to arrange our visuals by considering the shapes. So with this, what happens is that when anything changes, right, it really doesn't mess up the dashboard or mess up the workstation, but it works really well and it holds the aesthetic ability for the display as well. So in that particular reference, Z order is a very important thing in Power BI. So coming on to the 28th question, it states, how do you stay up to date with the new and upcoming concepts in Power BI or in BI itself? See, whenever you're talking about this question, right, in a business intelligence interview, this is a very commonly asked question. The interviewer here, he or she, in fact, is trying to assess your interest of Power BI to see if you have the ability, the interest to actually, go on to explore new things that come into this world of BI and how best you can leverage it. Because today's software is tomorrow tomorrow's obsolete when you think about it, right? Even in the case of Power BI, yes. Just check out the initial releases of Power BI and Power BI now. There's a day and night difference with the number of added features and how simplified Power BI is to use these days. So in that particular case, the interviewer tries to understand on how you approach something new, how you understand it, how you learn it, and how you implement it as well. Because it's not just learning new things, right? In the world of business intelligence, there is a problem that requires a solution. It is as simple as that. If you know the latest bells and whistles, the latest tools and techniques that you can go on to use it, then of course it makes your job very easy. It saves you time and money. It saves the employer time and money. Now at the end of it, the interviewer wants to understand how well you are prepared to scale yourself up in a production environment as well. So if you're a fresher or a person out of college, you might not have a lot of production experience, right, in a production environment. Now with this, the interviewer can get a solid idea of you having the capability to learn new things and effectively build on it too. So answer it in a clear way, state your interest. So state how you find your own ways to learn new things. There is no one answer here that will fit for all of you guys, so I suggest you sit, have a notepad, make note of how you learn new things and state it that way. Now, moving on to the 29th question, it says, do you have any experience working in the same industry as ours before? This is definitely a commonly asked question in a Power BI interview because, as I told you, business intelligence is required for every industry, every field that you can think of in one way or another. So let's say if you're applying, for the military, let's say if you're applying to perform business intelligence for a social media, for a hospital, or let's say a medical firm, in that particular case, they will want to know in case if you have worked in the same domain. It's just data familiarity. It's just knowing that you will be a better fit to that team there. So if you're a fresher, of course, you can just say no, that you really don't have any experiences, or you can take a little intelligent approach where you try to probably talk about the projects that you have done either in a certification program or in your college or something that has helped you understand this industry that you're trying to apply to. So make sure to talk about the experience in case if you have the experience, but then if you do not, if you're a fresher right out of college, then do talk about the tools, the techniques that you have used and how you think that will be a best fit for the industry that you're applying for now. Moving on to the 30th question, it states, have you earned any sort of certification to improve your learning and your implementation process? This is a very, very, very important question because interviewers, especially in the world of business intelligence, they understand the weightage, they understand the leverage that a certified BI, comes into the picture. Because at the end of the day, they know that if you have put in time and effort into a certification program, that you've learned something new, it provides them a confidence that you have the ability to work on your career and that this is what you want to do in the long term. That you have the strong aspiration to actually learn on new things, pick up new things, and eventually solve problems by making complete use of your knowledge as well. And of course, you being an effective learner is something that they'll definitely look forward to if they're hiring you, right? These are some of the aspects that they expect for. And with a certification program, you already know that you will have comprehensive knowledge taught by experts. A good certification program will give you industry level projects. It will give you access to a lot of things where you can learn Power BI or any other IT concept for that matter. Learn it, understand what the problem is that you're trying to solve, find out ways on how you can approach experts, learn from them, and at the end of the day work with a community, or you can solo it out to solve a problem. Because any IT concept, right, think about big data, think about AI, think about business intelligence, whatever it is, everything here is put into place because we want to make use of the computational power around us to simplify a problem or simplify a task to the fullest. That is your advantage. And as first I mentioned, the first 3 points we discussed was the advantage that the interviewer wants to see in you. So when you're talking about a certification program, right, it always adds value that you talk about what you learned and how you implemented your learning there. You might have 3 or 4 certifications, or let's say even more as well. In that particular case, quickly list all the certifications you have, and if you feel like the interviewer wants more details about what you learned, which he or she definitely will do, in that particular case, start elaborating about what you learned and what you got out of it. Because the outcome of a certification program is very important, not what the certification program is. So talk about what you learned, talk about how you plan to implement it, talk about how you have already implemented it in the past, and you should be good. Well, guys, I take this opportunity to wish you guys all the very best for all of your interviews. With this set, you have a clear idea of how you can approach these top Power BI interview questions in a clear and a concise way, and how you can answer them to the best of your abilities as well. So, with this, I'm sure you guys can be one step closer to acing all of your Power BI interviews. So, all the best for that, and I'll see you on the next one.
We hope this session was very informative for you all. If you have any comments or any questions you want to add to this set, head to the comment section now and do it. We'll be more than happy to help you out there. So with this, I wish you all the best for your Power BI interview, and I'll see you on the next one.